And now we're using the optional rules. The first one that I kind of like is the non-restricted character creation points. Uh, what's this mean? So every odd level, sorry, not every odd, every even level, you get a stat point, and that stat point can be used to increase the character by 1. Crazy, right? So what this rule lets you do is you can exchange your characteristic points for an advantage instead. There are some advantages that you cannot get, and they even offer some examples here of advantages to get that you should not be able to get just easily. And some ways that you could, in character, earn the advantage. I think this is a good way to get some cool advantages, but I found in practice, most players do it to get the advantages that give them slight benefits. Uh, and here is a list of advantages they say you just shouldn't allow to get. So repeat characteristic roll, increase stats at 9, access to magic and shit, starting wealth, jack of all trades, charm, uncommon size, stuff that you are basically born with. Or artifact, that'd be weird. And for these ones, if you want exceptional instances, you better have gone through a lot of shit. And these are just the role playing guides for these adventures. I'm not gonna go through them. I think they're great though. Uh, but I feel like if you're doing it, most people will just get will just get the gamey advantage like natural armor or mystical armor, but those are kind of banned on their list anyway. So, in that case, people will probably just get the stats. Uh, Beyond that, there are some disadvantages that they believe that you could eliminate some of your disadvantages by spending a level on it, like being sickly or being weak. I think that's a good system as well for some of these bad ones. I think it's cool to be able to get rid of these, but I think it's better to get rid of them via role playing. So I don't know. I'm not the biggest, fan of it, but it's not terrible. Next is Between Life and Death. So this changes how the negative life points rules. So basically, he neither dies at the quintuple of the value of his constitution nor falls unconscious automatically. In place of this, he must make a PHR check to determine his state. The difficulty is 40 to stay alive and 100 to remain conscious. And these numbers are increased by how negative the life points are. If you fail the first checkpoint, you die. And if you don't pass the second one, you lose consciousness. If you remain conscious, you can still act normally, but you act with an all-action penalty equal to your negative life points. And then if you continue to act, you make a PHR check every minute or every time you take damage. And if you use this rule, there's some changes. So if you're a if you're a Duke Cerise Nephilim, you just get a plus 20 to his PHR check for that rule. If you're a full-blooded Duke Cerise, they get half the penalties for their negative life points for being conscious. And the plus 20 as well. And if they're undead, when they make their roll, they either fail their roll by a difference that destroys them or remains conscious. But with their negative life points, they still get the negative because it's assumed their body's been ravaged by it. DR creatures only take half penalties, and they get a plus 40 bonus, their PHR check. But I feel like that won't matter because they'll just fucking die when they take 80 billion damage in one hit. Limits to abilities. This is a nice way to limit how powerful a character can be at certain level thresholds, where level 1 to 3, your maximum ability should be 200, and 4 to 6 is 280, and 7 to 9 is 320, and 10 plus is whatever the fuck you want. I think this actually acts better as a good guideline for like what is a good score to have at X level. Because 1 to 3, if you have 200, that's amazing. So if you have half that, 100, that's a good point to be at for a skill you want to be good at that level, which I think is a pretty good barometer. Limit to path magic. This is pretty convoluted, but I kind of like it. Where it lets you know what your maximum initial magic level should be at level 1 for the character you are based on your level of magic. So if you are a wizard in a little magic setting, you could have 40 magic levels, but you only know 30% of the path levels that you technically know if you invest in the path. Next at medium is 50-50, and it goes down and changes depending on what archetype you are. I think it's pretty good if you want to really put some rules in to keep magic in check, but it's up to you. When it comes to martial knowledge, it's 1/4, half, or full to how much MK you have access to. Though I feel like if you're limiting it this way, you should also make it so it's possible to unlock additional parts of it by role playing and by doing stuff. Initial invocations or summoners, same thing. If you are a summoner, I think this is a good way to determine that what a summoner should start with when you make a summoner, just for free. So, you know, I want a low level familiar. So if you're low level magic, you get a creature that is 1 level lower than you. Medium, 1 level higher than your level, and high, a creature of the same level with 2 or 3 of an inferior level is okay if you want a bunch of creatures following them around, or maybe just a familiar 1 level higher could be good too. Invocations, if you're level and you're an invoker, you get fucking shafted. I don't know what it means by 3rd and 4th degree. Perhaps it means up to that level of Arcana. So you couldn't go beyond the 4th Arcana or high level, for example, is what I assume that means. These are good rules, though, for how to rein in initial level for what a character should have when they make themselves. Sanity. What the hell is Sanity doing in my role-playing game, and what's it do? So, first things first, you add your intelligence, willpower, and power together to determine your sanity stats, so to speak, your mental health and your threshold to madness. If you're a tiny, noodle-brained man, you are immune to being insane because you're simply too simple to suffer the repercussions to your mental health, making you effectively immune to like things like Cthulhu. Any higher than that though, and you can go mad. So basically, if you're a sub-rock human who cannot go insane, you're good. You add them up and you reference the chart. What does chart mean though? So basically, you have this much mental health. If you get to this level or lower, you're gonna suffer an insanity check of sorts. Sorry, it's called a shock check. The shock check actually determines how much damage you take. But you roll the shock check. The shock check is make a willpower check and applying pertinent modifiers based on it. So these are the modifiers. If you're panicked, the modifier is a +2. You roll a composure check to eliminate them. Greater panic, no check modifier. It's just harder to deal with the composure. Several days without sleep. And the DM sets a target number based on the event. So if it's like, I don't know, your fucking whole family got burnt down in front of you, it's probably pretty high. And then you roll against it, and depending how much you fail by, this is how much damage you take in mental health. And oops, I did something. And as well, if it's real bad, you roll a physical shock check as well as seeing what derangement you get. Let me just double check what that actually means. It doesn't say immediately what the physical shock is. I assume physical. I'm looking up because I don't quite remember what physical shock does. Let's find out. Okay, all physical shock is you roll a PHR check. If you fail, you fall unconscious. If you fail by 40 or more, you die of a heart attack. Basically, that's what I thought it was, but I want to double check, though. I'm not a big fan of the physical shock stuff because it just RNG, lol, you die. I'm okay if you fall unconscious. I'd ignore the heart attack rules, though. And to be honest, with the PHR results, it'd be very difficult to fail by 40 unless you had a reduced PHR. And here are some more modifiers you can go with. They're all pretty typical. And then after you fail your shock check, you can get a trauma or madness, which can be rehabilitated over time. And here's a good example chart of how you can rehabilitate. So, for every week without frights, plus 1 mental health. For every week of complete rest, plus 2. So you get like a 3 if you just rest for a week. If you kill that creature that made you mad, you gain half the mental health you lost. And with appropriate therapy, it's 1 to 5. And then from there, it's up to the DM what kind of madness you feel. But here's some examples of the ones you could. So paranoia, depression, phobia, schizophrenia, stuff like that. These should make sense based on what happened. So if they were spooked by a giant spider monster, they should get a phobia disputers. If they have a strange voice in their head, maybe it's paranoia, or perhaps it becomes schizophrenia and they get a second personality. Or maybe their girl dumps them and now they're depressed. It should be logical. And I want to finish this up by talking about the pre-generated characters. And I kind of want to review them, discuss them, explain what they're good and bad, and explain where they cheat. Because that's very important. Because some of these guys are big, fat cheaters by the core rulebook. How do they cheat? They cheat by abusing their advantages, not following the rules. So let's talk about Orpheus over here. Orpheus is a Dark Paladin, and he's got pretty typical stats. But I like you to point out here, he has a +5 Bastard Sword. Alright. Now, he picks starting wealth as his advantage, but we don't know how much his starting wealth actually is. He has disquieting, unexceptional magical resistance, quick reflexes, and unfortunate. So, these are all 1 points, I'd assume, but they don't actually specify, which is kind of bad, so it's hard to tell how powerful he actually is. Assuming he only spent 1 advantage, and he only spent 4 CP, so that's 1, 2... That's 1, 2, 3, 4. So he spent 1 CP on all of them. You can know that based on that, as long as it didn't cheat any further, of course. So, how is he cheating already, though? He does not have Artifact, and as a level 1 character, you cannot buy an uncommon item as an item. And a +5 Bastard Sword is an uncommon item. So Orpheus is already cheating. I'm pretty sure full plate is also uncommon, but I need to double check that. But whatever. That's not a big deal. It's just something to point out. He has a smorgasbord of skills. And one thing I'll have you note is that he does not have this control skill here or Xeon. It doesn't say if he just doesn't get his magical abilities. Judging by his picture, it looks like he does. Right? This is the guy we're talking about right here. And he's doing some magic in his left hand, and it's clear he's controlling some creature behind him. So, I don't know. Maybe they forgot about his magical stuff, but you should definitely go into the Dark Paladin section and get his magical stuff. I'm pretty sure he didn't even spend all this DP either. Because if his magical... it's likely in his magical stuff, or maybe it's because he's bought so many secondary abilities. It will take a long time to put all of his stats out and figure out all of his bonuses and figure out how much DP he actually spent on all these abilities. But I feel like he should have his magical abilities, or perhaps it's something they want to get later levels. He's also not very combat optimized either, despite his +5 sword. Or Betos wouldn't do well in most Anima campaigns, I feel. His attack and defense ability are pretty low, meaning he didn't spend all of it. He bought a lot of wear armor, which explains it, which makes up for his lower defense, so... He's more of a defensive character, but he doesn't have a shield. He really should have a shield, by the way. And just one-hand the bastard, or that's what he should do, but he has low strength, so he has to two-hand it. So, I feel like all in all, as level 1 characters go, with the high stats that he does have, he's on the weaker side in the book. His biggest boon is that he has a full suit of plate mail that he can wear without too many negatives, which makes him have high AT, so although he's going to get hit a lot, he won't be taking much damage at least. If you were to play as this character, I would recommend learning some martial arts and going into fist fighting as him, actually. He has really good initiative thanks to quick reflexes, and his stats are pretty good for martial arts. And I would fucking sell his sword immediately. In his possessions, he has a bunch of clothing and I think too much gold for what he had bought with his 1 CP wealth advantage. And if anything, what I would do is I would give him 2-point artifact instead. I'd get rid of starting wealth and I would get rid of, I don't know, exceptional magical risens because it's not that important. Get him artifact 2 and make the armor and the sword an artifact instead. Just so he's more abiding by the rules. But, whatever. Next is Alette Persevian. She is an acrobatic warrior, and she's bad. I'll tell you why. So, her attack and defense abilities are good, and her stat distribution is good too. She has low con, that's fine. She has really high power, which is interesting. She has good luck, some charm, quick reflexes, no disadvantages, and she has a martial art, which is okay. Why is she bad? She only has 75 acrobatics, so she'll never get to use her acrobatics in combat effectively. Is why she's bad. Although it's a boring way to play, if you're making an acrobatic warrior and you're getting the acrobatic skill, you might as well make it the highest as possible. Like, it should be at least 100 and something. It's pretty bad where it is, and it's only useful for exploring, which means it's still useful. It's just she's not going to get the acrobatic warrior part of her kit out very often. She has her quarterstaff, which I don't think she would ever want to use. It's a bit fast. It's a bit slower than a rapier, which does more damage. So I think her quarterstaff is only there for roleplaying, which is a good thing to have, mind you. And lets you roleplay some cool pole vaults of it and stuff, but I think the point is, so I think it's a good thing for her to have. I like it. And yeah. I think thematically she's a good character. I feel like, though, her secondary abilities could be slightly adjusted to give her a bit more acrobatics. So that she could pull off the acrobatic stuff in combat more reliably. Like, I'd get rid of her ride skill, and yeah, I'd get rid of ride probably and add that on to acrobatics. What I would do to make her a bit more powerful while still keeping her variety. For gear, I don't believe she has much. She has a lot of silver crowns. I'm not sure what their starting wealth is for these characters. They don't specify. They might be rolling on that chart in the core rulebook randomly. So, pretty good. Nothing too crazy, though. Shion Demeter is your assassin who acts as your rogue. She is built very strangely because she is the assassin with a higher defense and attack. Which is weird because you get a class bonus to attack. I would swap around the defense attack ability to make her more offensive. Is one change I'd make immediately. Other than that, though, her abilities and stuff, she's pretty well built for an assassin. She has everything you'd expect her to have. Stealth, hide, lockpicking, poisons, trap lore, notice, search, composure, memorize. I feel like Shion is one of the better built characters for the role she's meant to, be in as an assassin. So I'd recommend her without changing her too much. I think she's pretty good. Her advantages are very nice, too. I like her disadvantage. It's very thematic for being an assassin. I don't like the projectile weapons module too much as something that you bought. But I understand it's because she wants to be able to throw daggers. I would spend some of her silver, however, on some more daggers, though. Like, maybe I have 8 or so to throw a bunch. But that's just me. I like throwing a lot of shit. Derek Shezard is one of the better characters. He is a warrior who uses a longsword and the martial art of Shotokan. He wears partial plates, and he's got an okay stat distribution. I'd like to see his defense and offense flip, to be honest, because you're better off killing dudes than you are not killing dudes, is my point of view. Or I'd even them out so they're the exact same. His secondary abilities are very nice. He has your typical stuff, and he's able to interact pretty well socially, while also doing some shenanigans of each strength. His advantages, to the limit's bad, so I don't think he should have that. But his immunity to pain, fatigue, and his exceptional physical resistance make him fairly durable. And Shuriken, just a really good generic martial art to just have randomly for if you get disarmed or something. Pretty good all in all. Next is Kane Delacruz. She's a paladin, and she has Alan Azrael. It doesn't say how much Alan she actually has of Azrael, or how much CP she spent into the advantage, but she has leader and the value of heroes, so I'm thinking just probably 1 CP, it looks like. She has natural learning ride and exceptional MR, so she has 3 advantages. She must have went 1-1-1-1 for sure. Her attack and defense is good. It's even of 80-80, which is good. Thanks to the shield. I got its built. She has a lance, which is actually a spear. They're pretty good. She has partial plate, which is pretty good. And her advantages are also really good. Natural learning ride is a weird one to have, because I don't think she has a horse, but it's something to build up to. The one downside of her character build so far is how low her ride score actually is. Your ride score should basically match your combat abilities. So her ride score right now should be 80. But other than that, well built in that regard. Again, like with the Dark Paladin, we don't see her magical abilities here, and she really should have them, because it doesn't specify if she took them or not. And yeah, her gear is what you'd expect, though she should really have a horse. In this adventure, it doesn't make sense for her to have a horse, so if you were playing this character, first thing you should get once you get off the island of Corvinus, which is in this adventure, get a horse, because you'll want it. Andrew Morpheus. He is your freelancer with jack of all trades, loads of money, and the requirement of glasses. He is your man. His stats are pretty mediocre, but he has high intelligence because he just only cares about his skills. However, he suffers from a horrible editing error and only has 3 VR. He is very, very vulnerable to poisons. Don't forget to add the 0 on his 30 VR he probably has. Or I think it would be 35, actually. Or, if you want to play the meme, only give him 3. As you can see, he has all the skills in the world. He has jack of all trades, so he can use every skill, and also he's just pumped a lot of DP into all of his skills. He's great at doing anything. I like freelancers. I think freelancers are the best class in the game. And I think this one is very well built to give the feel of having all the skills in the world, because he has a whole shit ton. He can do what the fuck he wants, and no one can stop him. I also like that he has nearsighted, because if he ever loses his glasses, he's getting fucked. But my question is, how the fuck did he afford all this shit? That telescope would cost, I think, 1,000 gold probably, but he still has 900 left after his 1 CP starting wealth? That's pretty sus. But whatever. We won't question the man too much. Annie's Beige is your thief. Her defense ability is higher than your attack, which makes sense because thieves get a bonus to a defense, so that's fine. She's ambidextrous, good luck, has danger sense, and is as a vice for stealing shit. So your typical D&D rogue. She has a similar Wapon module, Stiletto, which is a very strange module I haven't seen before, but clearly another typo, which is fine. And she has a wide variety of skills. The only one that's high is theft. Everything else is, average to below average. She's pretty well built for a thief. I like it. Danger sense is really good. And it means that she doesn't actually need the notice skill, actually. You might say, but why not, DM? Why not, Dal? Well, simple. With danger sense, the only way you can be surprised is by someone rolling over 150 above you in initiative. So, she doesn't need notice because the things you would notice out of the corner of your eye would only surprise you, probably. There's probably some small factoids and stuff you can learn by having a good notice score and rolling a notice check, but I feel like you're better off having her just have search instead. And just make her more about observation and having her rely on her danger sense to avoid getting, stabbed in the back. That's my only complaint with this character. Other than that, she's pretty good. Her possessions out of all characters makes the most logical sense of what she could have. Count Marcus Drago is a fucking fop of a mentalist. His combat abilities are clearly non-existent because he's a mentalist. However, his projection and potential is okay. He has his shield. He has telekinesis, which allows him to fuck shit up, and he has the starts of cryokinesis. He'll have some hard time pulling off his offensive abilities, and he does have the one innate slot he needs for his shield, so he's pretty well built in that regard. As a mentalist, his secondary abilities are expectedly low, but he's an okay character. With his second shield, he can block basically anything, except for energy in the early game. And, yeah. No. And with all the stuff that'll be around you with his ballistics, he'll be able to keep him in fights with most characters. And yeah, he kind of fits that fop role of being the foppish noble guy, but he's not really a noble through his lore. He has a bunch of daggers for his ballistics, as well as a meager amount of wealth, because he spent it all on clothing. Next is Julian Amaya, who is an illusionist. And, she's a bad character. I would not recommend playing her. Her MA is 40, which is low, but not too low. I believe her MA is actually a bit too low, though, to be viable, because she does not have a magical shield that she could cast that low MA. That means if she does not go first in a fight to cast her shield, or sorry, if she gets attacked in the first round of combat, she will not have a magical shield, because I think the lowest one costs 60 Xeon. That means she will die horribly. She's no good in a fight with her low offensive, but she does have illusion magic, which allows her to do some support in fights instead. Her limited air magic isn't very useful, and she'd be better off with all of her magic levels being an illusion, probably. Or all of them in air instead. Beyond that, her secondary abilities are pretty here and there. She has good persuasion, which is useful, but other than that, I would say out of all the starting characters, she's probably the weakest. She can't really fight. She can support you with her illusions, but she also can't defend herself. She's probably just going to die. And yeah, she has an interesting inventory. She'd be a cool character to roleplay as. Kamla Yamazaki is a warrior mentalist who uses a greatsword, and I think she's, physical increase. Physical increase is OP as shit. And therefore, if you look into her and adjust her abilities, you'll note that, she has amplified sustained power. She's just a good mentalist. She'll increase her strength score to be well beyond 6 very quickly. And once you min-max her increased strength ability, she'll easily have 10 strength to wield her greatsword even better. And with amplified sustained power, she'll be cheating a lot. Her energy stuff is pretty useless. Well, not useless. It is something she won't use very often, probably. It is a nice, support ability to, do some shenanigans, to make fire and stuff. Or no, create energy makes lightning, to zap stuff, I guess. But other than that, she's a typical fighter. She'll beat people up and kill people, then that's about it. Which is all you can expect from a warrior mentalist. It also notes here that with her psychic ability, she does get up to 8 strength initially to be able to fight properly. Vasily Togarini is your ranger of this adventure, if you pick him. He has a lot of weapons on him. Arrow of Unloading. What the fuck is that? Does he have artifact? No. Then what the fuck is an arrow of unloading? I guess it's that meant or unloading, like he's putting the bow away, maybe. But that's a damage. That's so weird. Let's ignore that. He has animal affinity and danger sense, and that's it. So he's good at animals, and he's good at not getting backstabbed, basically. Which are good things for a ranger. He has high notice, search, and track, but pretty low animal for someone who has animal affinity, but whatever. He has the throwing module, even though he doesn't need it. But whatever. I guess he wants to throw his hand axe, and make sure they're still throwable. Uh, I don't know why he would throw his hand axe when he has a bow and he can throw them anyways. So, whatever. I think he's a bit of a weirdly made character, and I think you'd do better by getting his DP back for the throwing module and just having him be ranged with a bow and arrow and have the hand axe be his melee weapon with the dagger, and he just, occasionally throws daggers. He just has one to, just cut stuff with a knife. I don't know. He's kind of weird. Katarine Kayla Stratos is your wizard, and she is a bit better built, but she has some glaring weaknesses. She only has level 26 water magic, which I don't think that actually would get her an offensive spell. It would be enough, I hope, to get her the magical shield from free access, but I'm not 100% sure. She's got good Xeon, and she has the breakpoint of 60 MA for water spells. But that still means that if her shield is not a water shield, which I can tell you now, water magic does not have a proper shield spell, she cannot cast a shield spell in the first round of combat, and therefore will fucking die in the first round of combat if anyone attacks her. So, I would adjust her MA to be a base of 60 and be like a 75, because 40 is a bit too low, because you'll just die in the first round of combat. If someone attacks you with that low of MA. Simple as that. Her inventory is pretty good. She has no rations, but she has plenty of money to buy some if she needs to. Kane over here is one of the better built characters. He has higher, above average attack and defense for everyone else in the book. He has ambidextrous, so he's dual wielding short swords, which is pretty nice. He can see ghosts, and he's ghosts, and is disquieting. He has a bonus for going for precise attacks, and his skill set's pretty okay. He's good at scouting, and that's about it, though. Everything else he's only kind of mediocre at. Beyond that, he has your typical gear. He has no armor, but he has a trench coat, apparently. One thing he's missing that he probably should have are some lockpicks, even though his lockpicking's kind of low. Or maybe a crowbar or something. I don't know. He could be min-maxed a little bit better. Maxvill Krauser is a weapon master, and he has a bunch of weapons, more so than the ranger, and he can use all of them. He has the area attack module, barbarian module, and different type module crossbow. So he can use a lot of things. He's wearing partial plate, and he's a big boy. He has your typical skill set, to be honest. He has some forging, which is nice for later on. And he has no money because he's spent all this gear. I like him. He's your typical weapon master. He could have bought more life modules, though, to be honest, to have more health. But that's a later thing, to be honest. So he's pretty good. And his stats are pretty high as well, overall. Tadius Griever is a conjurer summoner, or a warrior summoner to the Axiom. He fights with a rapier and dodges, and he has the invocation of the Emperor. He can cast spells because he has the gift, but I wouldn't recommend it. He knows dark magic, but he has no projection. Though later on, you get attack as projection and fix that for him and make him pretty good probably with spells as well. And yeah. His summon score allows him to basic summon the Emperor whenever he wants to, and yeah, he's pretty good, to be honest, with the Emperor. Being his invocation of the Emperor, he is a natural-born leader, though his leadership is a bit too low for him to get the Emperor card, I feel, to lead a group large enough to be able to have it. Beyond that, though, he's pretty good, and he's pretty rich as well. I like him. And Ashland, Shutterlane is your wizard mentalist, and oof, I wouldn't recommend her. She's likely to kill herself if she uses her mentalism abilities, especially with her psychic consumption, where she takes life point damage by how much she fails her abilities by. Yeah, unfortunately, they want to make a balanced character, right? with secondary abilities, but in honesty, you're making any of the dual class characters, you kind of gotta sacrifice secondary abilities to have good at both of them, or you're just bad at both of them, as you can see. She can't really fight or defend herself in any way, and she's just gonna kind of die. But if she was good at mentalism, I'd say she'd be good at reading minds and stuff, but she really isn't. Playing this character would be very depressing. I wouldn't recommend it. And we have Lamia Maximov, who is a summoner. Her combat abilities are non existent, and this is bad for her. Very bad. She does have the High Priestess. It's less bad, actually. Sorry. Okay. She'll be bad in the mid game, is the issue of this character. Because you have to go a very particular build for her not to fucking die. So, when you play this character, on your first round of combat, you have to invoke the High Priestess for your magical shield. If you fail at invoking the High Priestess, you die. Simple as that. But she isn't completely worthless without the High Priestess. She's also able to summon her companion known as Babelion, or as they call them, Babe, who is bound her dagger. And there's a minor darkness creature, and they're pretty good at fighting, actually. They're a fairly useful creature. And I think this creature is actually pretty powerful. And I think the summoner is actually pretty good. Their one downside is their lack of defense and relying on the Arcana, which isn't bad, but in later parts of the game, that Arcana will be very outclassed. And you need to get the Chariot afterwards, as well as the Fool, probably, to make good use of her. But as long as you can get the Chariot soon enough, you will be fine as her. Next is Jin Lan, or Jin Lan. I'm not sure how to say his name, but he's your Tao. He's a martial artist. He punches people. He knows the 4-land style, which allows him to do an additional Taekwondo attack. And yeah, I like how he named his martial arts the 4-land style. It's pretty good. He knows Kung Fu, Aikido, Shotokan, Taekwondo, and he can disarm your ass. He's really good, to be honest. Like, he has a nice thematic set of abilities for being a martial artist. He's got good attack and defense. And he can just kind of unload on you. And due to his, I like this note they put here to let you know what his, combo is. So when he goes disarm, he only has a negative 20, and he gets a plus 3 to his contested check to disarm somebody. So he's actually really good at disarming you, legitimately. Like, he'd be rolling at plus 13 to disarm your ass. So he's actually good. Vladimir Knucks. Vladdy Boy Knucks. He's got an artifact, the gift, gestureless casting, and he's scared of something. He has a plus 5 broadsword called Andrail, which improves his magical projection. And his ability to fight with magic is good on projection, bad on MA, and the spells he can cast would be weak. But he is level 1, so let's not be too harsh on the guy. He's pretty good for fighting with a sword, and it's clear his magical side is less important to him, and he's working on it still. He does have some useful secondary abilities. I didn't even talk about this guy's secondary abilities, but they're pretty bog standard, this fucking martial artist. He's afraid of crows, which is nice. And he has a magical sword, which you could use for your campaigns. I think it's nice. It's a plus 5 broadsword, gives him a plus 5 magical projection, and gives him a plus 20 to perception, and the wielder can see through the eyes of the blade, allowing him to, for example, use the sword to see around corners. Which is, for a magical sword level 1, that's really good. I think that's a really nice thing to have, and yeah, I like it. Next is Malcom Frost, a technician. And his key stats are, well, they're key stats. He does dex and agility techniques, it looks like, judging by them. He has all the good key abilities. And he has a Rankar. Or, sorry, a double Rankar. I don't know what that is. Does he have any key techniques, or does he just have a bunch of abilities? He has no key techniques. Yeah, he's a weird custom weapon, and he's not. He's okay, but he's not very good. He doesn't have a key technique yet. Oh, sorry, I didn't notice them. It's right down here. I missed it. He has a Celeritas key technique of Exesium Eris, which I believe improves your initiative. Uh, I don't know. He's not too interesting of a character. His secondary abilities are okay. I think he'd be more interesting if he had a second key technique and they went all in on that, or if they, you know, if they gave him a little bit of extra thing. At this point, he's just kind of a worse weapon master, and that's the book. Everything from this point on would be the adventure in the book, which I won't go over because spoilers. But I'd recommend it if you're new to the game to go through the adventure. It's not the best, but it explains the game and how it should be played fairly well. I hope these videos have helped you see the usefulness of the GM toolkit and to see what parts you like, what parts you don't like, want to ignore, and all that jazz. Thanks for watching these videos, and I'll see you on the flip side.